Hail, it's early November 2023. In this video I'm going to do a highlight and tasting of a fairly new fig to my yard, which is the Burgan Unknown. It's referred to as Burgan Unknown just because the person that discovered it growing in someone's backyard in California didn't know the true origin of that variety. So Burgan just refers to the street that it was discovered on. It's one that piqued my interest because people have said that it's one of the best figs out there. I didn't expect it to be as good as some report in California, just because that was around those that had fig wasp to go ahead and caprify their figs or pollinate them. We do not have fig wasp in Arizona, and we also, even if we did, have a little bit of a different growing climate, not as humid. Our figs tend to look a little bit different. You know, they tend to be smaller in size and actually a little bit more intense in flavor than other parts of the country, including California, where there's more humid conditions, more rain. I grew out in the Phoenix, Arizona area. That's USDA Garden Zone 9B. You know, we're in the Sonoran Desert. Quite hot here during the summer. We tend to have a pretty long growing season. And specific to this variety, I grafted it on about 2 years ago. So it was a cutting that I purchased from Harvey at Figaholics, you know, during his annual sale in January. I grafted that onto a tree that grew out. Unfortunately, that first year, even though it fruited, I didn't get to try the fruit because the birds just are ravenous over this variety like no other. Even when I would bag the fruit, they'd tear the bags down to the ground, rip them open. So I never had a chance to try the fruit until this year, actually. So this year in spring, I took scion wood off of that original graft and grafted about 3 more branches out on my raspberry latte tree, just so I could get a little bit better fruit production and, you know, potentially beat the birds out just by having more volume. So I tried this fig this year in our summer. First main crop, I believe, ripened up in July. That's when most of our figs ripened to begin with, just because we had a very late start to our fig season this year. Very long winter, spring was slow to start, and that just delayed us by about a month. Typically our main crop would first start coming in around June. So that's been delayed, and I'm seeing that too on our fall season. Typically we would have lots of figs ripening right now. Not so much, it's pretty sparse. I think probably end of November, early December is when most of my figs are gonna ripen up in fall. So back in springtime, I shared just a quick video showing the new grafts that I put on. This was one of them. So you can see the graft union has healed quite nicely on the Burgan Unknown. It's a pretty vigorous grower, so you can see with this variety it really tends to favor tall growth. So you can see it's way up there, pushing about 15 feet tall. And then, you know, in comparison value, this red Lebanese Becca Valley was put on around the same time, and you can see it's much shorter and bushier. Come in and look at the leaves. So they're actually more spade-like. So this variety, at least on this young graft, you know, not even a year old, I don't find a whole lot of fruit production on it. The fruit tends to be more spaced out. You know, unlike a red Lebanese, Becca Valley or Mount Edna type is super productive. You know, you'll tend to get anywhere between 6 and a dozen figs on the tips. Here I'm not seeing that as much. You can see like this fig here that we're gonna pick and try. It's growing directly on the branch here. Over here I've got another graft. You can see there's multiple branches out of that as well. And just again looking at the fruit, see one hanging there. There's one below, but we don't see clusters of fruit on this variety. So definitely not the most productive. So we can see a fairly squat shape to this fig. Dark tones towards the bottom of the fig. It does have an open eye, which can be a problem with the ants if you're not controlling them in your yard. And we see that there really is no neck to this fig, just a stem. So I am slightly surprised by the coloring on the inside. Typically, the ones that I've seen in the high heat of the summer don't have any red to them whatsoever. They're more of an amber color. So this time, as well as other times that I've seen this fig, there isn't really syrup or honey pooling in our climate. Again, could be different in a different climate, in a cooler, more humid climate, but here I don't really see that with this variety. And also, we're not getting rain right now, nor am I really watering my fig trees much right now since we've cooled down. So we'll give this a taste. So you probably saw a look of surprise in my expression trying that fruit out, and that's because it's so very different than what I experienced during summer, just a few months back when we had such high heat. We had record-breaking temperatures, and the fig at that time was really much more of your sugar type fig, very, very strong caramel flavor, didn't get any berry notes at all. It was a super sweet fig and quite delicious with that caramel taste, but it wasn't complex. So contrasting that with the fruit that I just tried, very, very different. Cut notes of berry, pretty strong berry notes. The caramel actually took a backseat to the berry notes. Wasn't as pronounced, but definitely there. And I also got melon tones. And I still feel there's something else that was in the background there, more nuanced, and I can't really put my finger on it, but really interesting, unique flavor profile on the fall figs. So while it's not in my top 10, I've definitely decided to keep it based on how unique the fall fruit is. Summertime, you know, I'm sure if you followed me, you know I'm not really a fan of really high sugar figs that are more single noted, so I wouldn't keep it for that, but definitely for this second main crop. Really delicious fig. People have asked if I'm going to be selling fig cuttings this year. I do plan on listing cuttings from my trees probably around January. That's typically when the trees are fully dormant and I can start that process. And of course, there's lots of options for cuttings, so if you're not aware, there's a website called figbid.com. Lots of hobbyists around the country sell there. Of course, Harvey Figaholics, that's actually, you know, my main source for all of the cuttings that I've purchased throughout the years. I've gotten from Harvey Carrera out at Figaholics. And he typically sells, you know, also in January. So other options, and of course, those places will provide you far more variety than I will, since I only am growing, you know, 40 or so varieties in my yard. Whereas these folks, you know, hundreds of different varieties are offered. Hope you enjoyed the highlight and fig tasting. Like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and happy gardening.